Reminiscences of a Jamindar by the river Ichamati, where history divides and unites. The remnants of the Taki Jamindari house stands as a testament to a bygone era, once home to the illustrious Roy Chaudhurys, descendants of Maharaja Pratapaditya Rai Chaudhary, one of Bengal's famed 12 Bhuyas. Its grandeur has faded, but not its legacy. Born in 1934, Debabrata Rai Chaudhary grew up amidst this heritage. At 92, he reflects on a life intertwined with privilege, loss, and resilience, offering us a rare glimpse into a transformative chapter of history. I was born in central Calcutta. My father was a lawyer and my mother was a homemaker, as was common for women then. North Calcutta was a place for the aristocrats with the old houses like Boses of Bagh Bazaar, the Mitras of Shyampukur, the Tagore of Jorasenko. These wealthy aristocratic families used to walk around and travel in fit and gurry. In my family, everyone was an independent professional. Uncles were doctors, lawyers, judges, and so on. During my time, the professionals came from the aristocratic part of society, while the middle class engaged in service. We attended a good school, St. Xavier's. We were among the few houses to do so. My father was determined that all of us siblings were properly educated. My sister was sent to Loreto School to complete her schooling. Even my mother herself was educated, having graduated from Victoria College, which was a rarity during that time. People used to come to her for consultations. My father was distraught. Being young, we could not comprehend the gravity of the partition. I understood there was a debacle and something grave was going on. Father was particularly distressed because Khulna district went to East Pakistan. Khulna and Murshidabad posed a problem to the Britishers when bifurcating Bengal. So they gave the Muslim majority district Murshidabad to India and the Hindu dominated district Khulna to Pakistan. Baba never expected Khulna to go to Pakistan and that loss deeply affected him. It might have contributed to his death. We were severely affected economically. Our land property in Khulna was lost. Our affluence was largely gone. We also witnessed the horrible famine in Bengal in 1943. It was a very difficult time with beggars everywhere crying for food. Back then, people were very poor. The majority of the people died of hunger. Life for the common folk was hard. Between 1950 to 54, we went through a difficult time. When my father passed away, my eldest brother was 18, I was 16, my sister was 14, and the younger ones were 8 and 10. My father was a successful lawyer, and we enjoyed the quiet comforts. It was difficult for my mother to rear the children single handedly. We passed through that period, completing our education driven by sheer will. The youngest became a celebrated sitar player and a professor of economics. My next brother was a physics professor and Nuffield scholar in England. My sister and my eldest brother also became professors, and I joined a bank. The administration during British rule was better compared to our present. The British imposed their dominance, yet the Anglo Indian community thrived with many women working. The partition was a tremendous blow to the country. Bengal and Punjab were divided according to population and religious dominance, triggering communal violence and mass displacement. Many refugees migrated from eastern Pakistan to Calcutta, leaving the city overwhelmed. Many people died owing to starvation, lack of shelter, and unhygienic living conditions. The economy was in shambles. Nevertheless, Dr. B.C. Roy, the then Chief Minister of Bengal, handled the situation very tactfully by relocating refugees to places like the Andamans and Dandakaranya. In Calcutta, initiatives like introducing yellow taxis gave people a way to earn a living, while others started small businesses. The riots in Punjab and Bengal were ghastly. On 16th, 17th, and 18th August 1946, Calcutta saw horrific violence, leaving hundreds dead. In one incident, my uncle, who resided in Kalyani, was away at work when riots broke out suddenly. His family was at home alone. Their Muslim neighbors, who lived right beside them, offered them to hide in their house. Then, an Anglo Indian friend, Mrs. Muril, helped the family along with many other Hindu women, arranging for safe passage. The then Prime Minister Clement Attlee admitted that it was the work of Bose and his INA that hastened India's freedom. There was this after effect of INA with a naval mutiny in Bombay and another in the army shook British confidence in their control over India. After independence, while challenges persisted, Jawaharlal Nehru's government focused on modernization and industries grew, dams were built, and new jobs were created. The most tangible change which happened was the emancipation of women. In those days, most women were housewives and very few women were educated. Women's education was more prevalent among the Brahmo Samaj, the followers of Raja Ram Mohan Roy. The Hindus were mainly conservative, and the women typically managed the house and child care, a system which existed among the rich and the poor alike. It was not customary to work anywhere for a girl in those days, and only a select few pursued careers. The males maintained the house, the income would be theirs. This idea changed due to economic conditions after the partition. Prices soared and the market was very dear. It was not feasible for a man alone to provide for his family. Naturally, women had to work because if they did not, the houses would have stopped functioning. People were not earning so much unlike today, and someone earning rupees 500 back then was considered to have a very respectable job. Among the Bengalis, there was an aversion towards manual labor. All the taxi drivers, thelawalas, rickshaw pullers, coolies came from outside. The transport business was majorly in the hands of the Punjabis. Bengalis were more interested in higher studies, becoming professors, doctors, or office clerks. This changed after partition. Bengalis had no choice but to turn to businesses. They opened shops, worked in ball bearing factories, became contractors, and so on. We were accustomed to minimal clothing and food. Owning a car was rare, and children usually walked to school or took public transport. The value system was different, and the standard of living was much simpler compared to today's world. The education system was considerably better. From 1960, I noticed the quality of education deteriorating. Though technical education improved, general education went into a slump. The standard of English has declined. College students back then knew a lot outside their curriculum. They read a lot of books where real education lies. Education was accessible to all, though not everyone had the means to afford it. Even in vernacular schools, English was taught at a decent standard. Interestingly, the Bible was offered as an optional subject, and we had to even sit for exams on it. We also had Sanskrit, Latin, or Pali in matriculation as a compulsory classical language. For boys, mathematics, arithmetic, geometry, and algebra was mandatory, while girls could take arithmetic and home science. Discrimination was present, but it was not overtly prominent. For instance, Indians were not allowed in certain clubs like the Calcutta Club, but as it was their colony, they had to employ Indians to run the country. The army, the navy, and air force were full of Indians, only the head positions were occupied by the English. 26th January, I remember, was celebrated very prominently in Delhi. The whole event was aired on radio, broadcast live. But in Calcutta, the celebration was simpler. The parade held in Fort Williams was not as pompous or beautiful as in Delhi. As far as my memory goes, I personally never experienced that color here in Calcutta. We remember Republic Day more as a holiday. I was young during that time, so the main change I felt was the British were gone and there was no longer discrimination between the whites and the browns. There was a sense of unity, and despite everything, we had gained our freedom and now we had our own constitution. Thanks for listening. The most tangible change which happened was the emancipation of women. Tangible. Tangible, tangible means that can be clearly seen to exist. Emancipation, Emancipation, emancipation means the process of giving people social or political freedom and rights. Thanks for your attention.